right, guys, welcome to Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric Hobbs,
And I'm David Woldingen.
and it's time for us to preview the Music City Bowl as Mizzou takes on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Before we begin, please, guys, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and on Spotify. Like, follow, and subscribe. All right, David, we did an initial kind of reaction video. Feels like a million years ago with all these portal videos and all that going on. But it was what, 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. And we said that this matchup, playing Iowa, maybe not an A plus matchup in terms of a juicy kind of name like the Vegas Bowl versus USC could have been. But it's a solid kind of B plus matchup, especially when you factor in location.
Yeah, and in the years past, Mizzou's had some recruiting rivalries going on with Iowa for certain players. So not to say that it's happened recently, but there is a little bit of intrigue just because they're one of our border state teams. So
I mean, recruiting Bo Perbula, transfer out of
yeah,
Penn State, the quarterback. Iowa is said to have wanted him badly. So, I mean, yeah, to your point, a lot of recruiting competition there. Interestingly enough, as you said, border state, all that, they played in the 2010 Insight Bowl. They've played 14 times total. And a bunch of those came like in the 30s or whatever. These teams don't play often. So, oddly enough, this is a unique matchup, even though it's a border state type of a situation. So that's interesting. Missouri opens up as a slight favorite. They've kind of held, actually, I gotta say, opened up. They've held as about a 3.5 point favorite, pretty consistently throughout. Not much movement there. And that comes despite the opt-outs. David, Missouri defensively hanging in there. Chuck Hicks opted out. What I read, spending time with family. Who knows what the real reason is in his case. But
probably
then on the
committed another
offensive side of the
personal
ball,
foul.
yeah, oh my gosh. The big news in the opt-out business for Missouri, Luther Burden and Armand Membu, the right tackle, both out.
Yeah, Burton, I think, was expected. Mimbu
Yeah.
was more of a surprise, but good for him.
Mhm.
I can't fault him for doing it. I know why he's doing it. I mean, he had a great year, quite honestly, and he's projected, I think, in first round somewhere at a
He's
lot
been
of places.
getting some first round buzz.
Yeah.
Definitely inside the top 100, well inside there. So yeah, you're talking about a guy who could play himself into out of the first round, honestly, with a bad game. So
Well,
for
what
him, why hurt himself?
I'd love
And
to
then
see him
And
go.
then Luther Burden, Luther Burden things.
Yeah, and I'd love to see him go in the first round, only because it just adds to Mizzou's pedigree that they can get linemen to the NFL, which will help
Oh
drawing
yeah,
in portal players and recruits and so forth. So
yeah,
I'm pulling for him big time.
yeah. Now, let's talk Iowa in the transfer portal, and the big the big one was Caleb Johnson, the running back, gigantic source of Iowa's offense. It was already limited to begin with because Iowa and offense, but he has opted out, and that's not it. Iowa lost perhaps their best corner.
Yeah, um, it could be a chance for Brady Cook if the line holds up, um, to maybe find a point of attack. Now that they're going to be missing one of their corners. I think the other big thing is Brady Cook has a tendency to roll right, so it's going to be real interesting to see what Mizzou does on the offensive line, missing Membu, with possibly Walters or Richardson filling in, or who knows, they might be throw in a couple of young guys in there too, just to see what they got.
Yeah. And I mentioned it. Jamari Harris is the corner for Iowa who is opting out. There's some medical going on there. He is an NFL type prospect. All right. But for him, there's medical going on, and it's legitimately getting healthy ahead of the combine and all of that sort of thing. So for him, it's not even a true opt out in the sense that we've gotten used to in the last couple of years. So not as cheap of an opt out as you might think, but Iowa's without a gigantic source of their offense and their best corner. So it's not
Well,
like Missouri's the only one hurting here.
and another opt out we forgot to mention with Mizzou, which is kind of another medical issue, is Brett Norfleet had
Oh,
surgery.
yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't
so
even
he
consider that an opt out. He had surgery and is out.
yeah. So yeah, very true. So he's recovering. I think they said he should be ready by spring ball, but
Yeah. But
which
for
is
this game, he is out.
yes.
And at least, Tyler Stevens or whoever at tight end will be able to get the reps and try to get acclimated so Missouri can get something out of the tight end position.
Not that we call on the tight end much, but
And that's just it. With Norfleet being hurt most of the year, there wasn't any real weapon there. So we'll see. With you know Jordan Harris, Tyler Stevens, somebody, we'll see what happens there. David, this is going to be for somebody who loves a shootout. This is going to be a depressing game. Let's make no mistake. I I think everybody in the stadium would agree 30 points wins the game going away. The over under is like right at 40. So, what do you want to see with Missouri's offense in terms of challenging this strong Iowa defense?
I just want to see consistency with the offense. Losing Membu is going to make that stretch play that Mizzou runs so well uh interesting in the sense of whoever replaces him on the right side, can they produce just as well. Armand Bimbu had one of the best rush pass blocking ratings in the country. That's going to be hard to replace. So it'll be interesting if they change their play calling a little bit on that side of things. Iowa has a fairly solid rush defense. I think they allow 117 yards a game on average.
Yeah,
So Mizzou might have their work cut out with that just because they're missing Connor Towson and now Mimbu. So they have a couple of backups coming in, and Walters might even slide over there, who's a solid backup lineman. Quite honestly, he held his own while he's played periodically throughout the year. So
yeah, he
it'll
was the
be
sixth man basically. Kind of whenever somebody got hurt, he was the one to kind of fill in. Now, when Connor Towson went down, Drake Heismeyer filled in at center. Of course, center being a little bit of a different animal. Um, but yeah, I think you look at Mitchell Walters perhaps as a top option to play right tackle for this game, and Javen Richardson, the JUCO transfer. I think those are the two names you look for to be your right tackle for this game. Maybe it's a rotation, maybe it's a hot hand situation. I don't know. Armamembu was such a rock over there. There never really was any sort of extended time where he was not in at right tackle.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of difference from left tackle to right tackle, just more scheme, step, footwork type stuff. And they've had this month to work on that. So knowing that he's been gone for quite a while, this wasn't a sudden decision or anything. So they've had time to prepare. So I think they'll be all right. Um, the other thing I look for offensively is, I said it earlier. Cook, like, and you mentioned it earlier as well. In fact, you were the one who brought it up. Cook loves to roll right when
Yeah.
he's throwing the ball. And without Mimbu there, it'll be interesting to see if they work with him on that to stay in the pocket more. He also doesn't have Luther or Burden to look for in the passing game, so it'll be really interesting to see who they have in the slot position and then what Mizzou will end up doing passing wise.
Yeah, it, you want to see a quarterback step up in the pocket. And when Drew Pine was in there filling in for Cook, that was one thing people praised Pine for was, wow, look, Missouri has a quarterback who steps up in the pocket to kind of negate that pass rush. Brady Cook never learned to do that effectively. It was just rolling right, rolling right, rolling right. And he got away with it in part, I think, because Membu was so effective. Well, if there's pressure coming from the right, right in front of Brady Cook, what's going to happen? That's a situation he's not used to. And his primary escape valve, rolling right, may not be there, at least not as often. So it's something where he's going to have, they may need to scheme around that, where a running back leaks out, Nate Noel or whoever leaks out into the flat so he can just have a little dump off. Or maybe you have whoever you have at tight end line up off right tackle a little more to help out. Missouri may just play their best blocking tight end, whoever they deem that to be, to help out with the line on this one.
One other thing I want to mention then, we saw late in the year that Mizzou didn't have any major design QB runs or anything like that because Cook was playing on bad ankles.
Yeah,
Well, with this month off, he's had a chance to get healthier, both for the passing side of the game and his footwork. And now I wouldn't be surprised if you see him move around a lot more, just because I think his ankles are going to be a lot stronger now that he's had some time to let it actually rest and get healed. So
right.
it's gonna be interesting to see how he comes out in the style of play calling based on how healthy he is too.
Yeah. Now, on the other side, we talk about Missouri's defense losing Chuck Hicks, which you some people frustrated with the personal fouls might say is addition by subtraction. It's just a matter of sheer numbers at linebacker due to injuries. Khalil Jacobs, for example, out for the year, out since what, the UMass game. That loss kind of necessitated Chuck Hicks playing a lot. With him not playing, you may be looking at like a Nick Rodriguez getting a first real extended look. The talented linebacker looked good in spots. We'll see what happens if that is indeed where Missouri turns. For Iowa, when they're on offense, again, there's no mystery here. Run the ball, lean on your defense. Brendan Sullivan is going to be expected to be the quarterback for Iowa. They've had a complete circus in terms of a rotation. They thought they had a solid plan with Cade McNamara, who was just not good, and then hurt, and then benched, and everything else. And going through three guys, it looking like Brendan Sullivan will be the quarterback for Iowa, and he's topped 100 yards passing one time, that being against UCLA, a loss. So Iowa's offense trying to do much of anything, especially without Caleb Johnson. Missouri was thought, I think the perception has been that they're a really good run defense team and hanging on for dear life in pass defense. Statistically, Missouri giving up 100, like what, 185 yards passing or something per game, top 25 pass defense in yards per game allowed, which I think that would blow the minds of a lot of Mizzou fans. But over the course of a 12 game schedule, the numbers are the numbers.
Yeah,
So what's Iowa going to do with that?
yeah, and you kind of said it too. Who do they turn to offensively? Um, I want to say they're going to throw the ball more, but I don't know if they have it in them, quite honestly. So it's going to be
I
real
see.
interesting.
I
It's going to be real.
disagree.
It's going to be really interesting to see what they do. I know they're a run heavy team, and I think you may have mentioned that I could see him throwing maybe 20 times at most. Uh, but if their running backs aren't producing, they're going to have to call some type of audible on the offensive side to figure things out and get something going. Otherwise, it's going to be a rough game.
Well, for me, just think Kirk Ferentz been there forever. Nothing's changed. I don't think for this game he's going to all of a sudden just open it up and throw the ball 40 times. He is who he is. He runs what he runs. So looking at their statistics here, I've been pulling it up. Kamari Moulton has the second most carries after Caleb Johnson, the most of any back expected to play. 70 carries, 377 yards, 5.4 per carry with two touchdowns. Here's the thing for Iowa 29 rushing touchdowns, 21 of them from Caleb Johnson, again, who has opted out. So Iowa's big thing is where is the offense going to come from? You have him, you got the other running back, Patterson, 54 carries, 235 yards. After that, you're looking at Sullivan himself, who is a little bit of a running threat, but he's not Mike Vick back there. Uh, the truth of it is, after Caleb Johnson, Brendan Sullivan has the most rushing touchdowns on the team with four. So it just goes to show how much they leaned on Caleb Johnson and how much it's going to hurt them. I think, you know, Iowa runs the ball. They do that. So they're going to be okay running the ball. It's just they have an NFL caliber running back that they just suddenly don't have. So you kind of throw your hands up and say, where's the offense going to come from? Their leading receiver, Jacob Gill, 382 yards. That's it. The team nine passing touchdowns from their whole rotation of quarterbacks. That's I don't know. Nobody had more than 32 catches. So they can spread it out, I guess. I look at Iowa's offense and for a team that leaned on the run, they had fewer passing yards than every FBS team except for the service academies. For that team to lose a star running back, it's tough, David. It's tough.
And I agree, but you got to question how good is their offensive line too.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's
like,
why I think they're going to try to run the ball. And I
well,
think
yeah,
they'll be somewhat successful because they do have a decent offensive line running the ball. It's what they do. It's their identity. So they'll stick with their identity. I feel confident in saying that.
when you
Uh,
have Kamari Moulton with 70 carries on a year with 377 yards, so
yeah.
I could see them leaning heavily on him offensively as well.
Yeah, I don't
It,
know if Kirk Ferentz is even the type of guy to do a hot hand type of approach of have two or three guys by committee in the first half and then roll with whatever's working in the second half. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy to even have that flexibility.
well, and they might have to though, just to see what they have in the running back position.
Oh, I agree. I agree. That's probably the smart thing. I just don't know that Ferentz will do it. He's not a flexible dude in terms of scheming. Is we're going to do this, and if we execute, we're going to win. It's almost there's a certain stubbornness to him in my mind. I don't know. We've talked about this. There's not much to say about Iowa. We know what they are. Their identity has not changed in a quarter of a century. So let's just get straight into picks. And David, we both had pretty strong years. Trying to close it out here on a high note. Missouri, the slight favorite, and I mean 40 points for an over under. It seems good. I hate to say the under on that one, but man, you could see it, especially if there's a big drop off at right tackle for Missouri. Um, as far as this game, yeah, Missouri's going to get a couple touchdowns. I think Missouri's defense will have some lapses and they'll figure things out, and then maybe a lapse here and there. Missouri's going to execute. They're just a better offense, more tested, a little bit of a harder schedule. We didn't really touch on that, but Missouri's schedule a little bit harder based on pretty much every metric. I've got Missouri winning this game 23 to 17.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from on that. This game reminds me a lot of the Oklahoma game earlier in the year, where both sides are scratching their heads like, where's the offense going to come from? And in the last 3 minutes of the game, there was what, 4 touchdowns?
Absolute chaos.
The-
Yeah, for any Iowa fans who find this video, in that Oklahoma game, in the final, what, 3.5 minutes, both teams got a touchdown and then got a scoop and score to take the lead. Both
yeah, it was.
teams did that. It was insanity. But I digress. Continue.
So anytime I think it's going to be a low scoring game, something crazy happens and it becomes a blowout one way or another, or just tons or a track race to see
Yeah.
who can put up the most points. So I hesitate to say it's a low scoring game on this one, especially when you're throwing new guys in there and you never know what you're going to get. Uh, I think I have Mizzou winning this one 31-21. I think I can predict one thing because Iowa loves to run.
Yeah.
Your safety, Marvin Burks, is going to be coming in hot like a
Oh,
linebacker,
gosh.
and they're going to hit over the top and catch him cheating in.
Yeah,
And
that's likely.
he'll have a blown coverage for a touchdown passing wise. It's almost guaranteed. I've seen it too many times this year. I think that's going to happen at least
Oh, that
once.
that's a fair assertion. Absolutely.
So that's why I'm going with 31-21. But I think Mizzou's offense will do enough to get the job done, and Iowa's going to be scrambling to figure out how to move the ball down the field other than a blown Marvin Burks play action coverage.
Oh, there you have it, guys. We'll see. Mizzou going for win 10.
Yep. And in the meantime, wish everybody happy holidays, and we'll keep you updated with all things in the portal with Mizzou, and right around the corner, conference basketball play coming up. So we'll have a conference preview coming up.
Yeah.
Out of conference, say the record was predicted, the way it happened, a little off, but we'll get to that in another video. So stay tuned. We have a lot of content for you guys. As always, thank you for watching Under the Earth Sports.